The Spectre drifted through the darkness of space, silent and forgotten for over a century. Its metal hull, once gleaming with the pride of humanity's greatest technological achievement, now floated covered in cosmic dust among the stars of the Helios Nebula. The legend began in 2287, when Earth's first attempts at building a warship capable of defending multiple colonies ended in mystery. The experimental vessel, officially designated XCS-117 but nicknamed the Spectre by its crew, vanished during its final test run. Some believed it had been destroyed by its own experimental weapon systems. Others whispered that its commander had gone rogue, disappearing into uncharted space. After decades without answers, the Spectre became just another ghost story told by veteran spacers to wide-eyed cadets. By 2387, humanity had spread across 12 star systems, forming the Terran Alliance. On the frontier planet Arcadia, Commander Ethan Wright stared out the viewport of Outpost Delta 9, watching the binary sunset with tired eyes. At 42, the lines on his face told stories of battles won and lost across the stars. His dark hair had begun graying at the temples, a fact his crew occasionally teased him about. "Beautiful, isn't it?" asked Lieutenant Sam Morgan, joining him at the viewport. The young officer handed Ethan a steaming cup of coffee. "Never gets old," Ethan replied, accepting the drink. "How are the patrol reports looking?" "All quiet on the Western Front, sir," Sam said with a slight smile. Though Davis picked up some strange readings near the outer asteroid belt. Probably just mining drones from the Callisto Corporation. Ethan nodded. But something about the casual report bothered him. The Callisto Corporation didn't have mining rights in this sector. Before he could question further, the outpost's alert system blared to life. "Unidentified objects entering system," announced the calm voice of the station's AI. "Multiple signatures detected. Pattern suggests non-human origin." Ethan's coffee cup hit the floor as he raced toward the command center. Sam followed close behind. The command center buzzed with activity as officers rushed to their stations. Lieutenant Carol Baker, the outpost's sensor specialist, looked up from her console with wide eyes. "Sir, I've never seen anything like this. Hundreds of ships just appeared at the edge of our system. They're not using any known jump points. Show me," Ethan ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a three-dimensional map of the Arcadia system. A mass of red dots clustered at the outer edge, moving with alarming coordination. "Have they responded to hails?" Ethan asked, studying the formation. "No, sir," replied Communications Officer Pete Wilson. "I've tried all frequencies, including the first contact protocols." "Sir," Carol interrupted, her voice tight with tension. "They've launched smaller vessels, hundreds of them. They're accelerating toward the colonies." Ethan felt ice form in his stomach. "Battle stations. Alert Alliance Command immediately. Priority 1 distress signal." As the outpost scrambled to prepare for the unknown threat, thousands of miles away in the darkness of space, Alliance intelligence analyst Kate Powell sat alone in her tiny office aboard the research station Hermes 7. At 35, Kate had spent most of her career studying historical technology, particularly the mysterious disappearances of early Alliance vessels. Her office walls displayed star charts and photographs of lost ships, the Spectre featuring prominently among them. Her computer pinged with an incoming message. Kate pulled her long brown hair into a quick ponytail and tapped the screen. "Powell, here." "Kate, it's Director Jordan. I'm sending you some data that just came in from the long-range sensors near the Helios Nebula. Those energy signatures you've been tracking? They're back, and they're stronger than ever." Kate's heart raced as she opened the files. For months, she had detected faint energy pulses that matched no known human or discovered alien technology. The pattern was unique, but somehow familiar. She had developed a theory that seemed too wild to share with her colleagues. That these signatures matched the theoretical output of the Spectre's rumored phase shift drive. "This can't be a coincidence," she muttered to herself, comparing the new readings to historical data. The patterns were nearly identical to the last recorded emissions from the Spectre before its disappearance. Her excitement was interrupted by a station-wide alert. All personnel report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Kate rushed to the main observatory where other analysts had gathered. The station commander's face appeared on the main screen, grim and pale. We've received word that Arcadia colony is under attack by unknown forces. Multiple colonies have gone dark. Alliance Command has ordered all research stations to prepare for immediate evacuation. Stunned silence fell over the room, broken only by the beeping of consoles. The attacking forces don't match any known species or faction, the commander continued. They appeared without warning and have shown no interest in communication. Their technology appears to significantly outmatch our own. As the briefing continued, Kate's mind raced back to the energy signature she had been tracking. Was it possible that whatever had happened to the Spectre was connected to this attack? Back on Arcadia, Ethan's outpost shuddered under the first wave of attacks. The alien vessels moved with terrifying precision, targeting communication arrays and defense systems with surgical accuracy. "Shields at 40%, Sam called out as another blast rocked the station. "Evacuate all non-essential personnel to the emergency shuttles," Ethan ordered. "We need to get a warning to the inner colonies." As the evacuation began, Ethan downloaded all sensor data about the attackers to his personal device. If they couldn't survive this, someone needed to know what they were facing. The aliens, who would later be identified as the Vortian Collective, moved methodically through the system, destroying everything in their path. Their ships, resembling dark metallic insects, swarmed around larger vessels that served as command centers. Ethan led the remaining officers to the docking bay where his ship, the Dauntless, waited. A small but nimble Corvette-class vessel, it wasn't designed for direct combat but could outrun most threats. "Everyone aboard," he shouted over the sound of distant explosions. The outpost's structural integrity was failing, atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. As the Dauntless pulled away from the dying outpost, Ethan watched through the viewport as the place he had called home for 3 years broke apart under the relentless assault. "Setting course for the jump point," said Sam, now serving as navigator. "No," Ethan replied, making a decision that would change the course of human history. "We're not running to Alliance Command. They'll be too slow to respond. Set course for the Helios Nebula." "The Helios Nebula?" Sam questioned. "Sir, that's in the opposite direction from Alliance space." Ethan nodded, his face set with determination. "I know. Before the attack, I received a classified intelligence brief. There have been strange energy readings coming from that sector. Readings that match old stories about the Spectre." The crew exchanged skeptical glances. "The Spectre is just a legend," said Carol. "Maybe," Ethan replied, watching as the Vorchan ships continued their systematic destruction of Arcadia. "But right now, a legend might be all we have." The Dauntless slipped into hyperspace, carrying the survivors toward an uncertain destination, while behind them, the first battle in humanity's fight for survival came to its brutal end. The Dauntless limped through the swirling gases of the Helios Nebula. Its hull bore scorch marks from a close encounter with a Vorchan patrol that had tracked them after their escape from Arcadia. For 3 days, Ethan and his crew had played a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the dense clouds of cosmic dust. "Engine status?" Ethan asked, his voice rough from lack of sleep. Sam checked the readings at his station. "Not good, sir. We took heavy damage to the port thruster. We're running at 30% capacity at best." Carol looked up from the sensor array. "Sir, those energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever is causing them, we're getting closer." Ethan nodded. The intelligence brief he'd received mentioned the strange pulses that analyst Kate Powell had been tracking for months. The pattern matched no known technology, but there were similarities to the theoretical emissions of the Spectre's experimental drive system. "Keep us moving," Ethan ordered. "Slow and steady." As the Dauntless pushed deeper into the nebula, the ship's communications system suddenly crackled to life. "This is Research Station Hermes 7 to any Alliance vessels. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack." The voice was female, tense but controlled. In the background, alarm sirens wailed. "This is Commander Ethan Wright of the Dauntless. We're receiving you, Hermes 7. What's your situation? Commander, this is Intelligence Analyst Kate Powell. Our station was hit by Vorchan forces about 6 hours ago. Most of the escape pods were destroyed. I managed to get away with a few others, but our pod's life support is failing. Ethan looked at his navigation officer. Can we reach them? Yes, sir, but it would mean changing course and possibly revealing our position to any Vorchan ships in the area. Ethan barely hesitated. Set course for their location. We're not leaving survivors behind. 2 hours later, the Dauntless approached a small escape pod drifting at the edge of a particularly dense cloud formation. The pod's exterior lights flickered weakly, indicating failing power systems. Bring them in, Ethan ordered. When the airlock opened, 4 people stumbled through. 3 were clearly injured technicians from the research station. The 4th was a woman in her mid-30s with brown hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Despite her disheveled appearance, her eyes were alert and intelligent. Kate Powell, she said, extending her hand to Ethan. Thank you for the rescue. Commander Ethan Wright. Wish it could have been under better circumstances. Kate nodded grimly. The Vorchans hit our station without warning, just like Arcadia. You know about Arcadia? We received the distress signals before our communications went down, Kate explained. But that's not all I know. Those energy signatures you're tracking? I've been studying them for months. They match the theoretical output of the Spectre's phase shift drive. Ethan stared at her. You believe the Spectre is out here? After all this time? I believe something is, Kate replied. And given what we're up against, we need to find it. As they spoke, Carol called out from her station. Commander, I'm picking up a massive object directly ahead. It's just sitting there in the middle of the nebula. Ethan and Kate rushed to the viewport. Through the swirling gases of the nebula, a dark shape slowly became visible. It was enormous, at least 3 times the size of the largest Alliance battleship. Its hull was unlike any modern design, with smooth curves instead of the angular structures favored by current engineers. That's it, Kate whispered. That's the Spectre. The legendary ship floated silently, seemingly untouched by the century it had spent lost in space. No lights shone from its windows, no signals emitted from its communication array. It appeared, completely dormant. Scan it, Ethan ordered. Carol ran the sensors. Sir, this is strange. I'm detecting a field around the ship. It's like time is moving differently inside that bubble. And there's a faint power signature. The ship isn't dead. Can we dock with it? Ethan asked. The main hangar doors are sealed, but there's a smaller auxiliary airlock that might work, Sam replied after studying the scans. Ethan made his decision quickly. Prepare a boarding party. I want to see this legend up close. Despite objections from his second-in-command, Alan Ross, Ethan led the boarding party himself. Kate insisted on joining, arguing that her research made her the closest thing they had to an expert on the Spectre. The team crossed from the Dauntless to the Spectre via a sealed boarding tube. When they reached the airlock, they were surprised to find it responded to standard Alliance override codes. This doesn't make sense, Alan said. These codes shouldn't work on a 100-year-old ship. Unless someone updated the security systems, Kate suggested. The interior of the Spectre was dark, lit only by the team's flashlights. Unlike the abandoned ships they had encountered before, there was no sign of battle damage or emergency evacuations. It was as if the crew had simply vanished, leaving everything in perfect order. Life support is functioning, Kate noted, checking her handheld scanner. Minimal power, but the air is breathable. As they moved deeper into the ship, the lights suddenly flickered on, startling the boarding party. Welcome aboard, said a calm, female voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am Iris Integrated Response Intelligence System. Please identify yourselves. Ethan stepped forward. I am Commander Ethan Wright of the Alliance vessel Dauntless. We've come seeking help. Processing identity, Iris replied. Commander Wright, my systems indicate that the Alliance is currently under attack by an unknown species. Is this correct? Yes, Ethan confirmed, surprised by the AI's awareness. They call themselves the Vorchan Collective. They've destroyed multiple colonies already. Understood. This situation meets emergency protocols for reactivation. However, I cannot fully restore systems without proper authorization. What kind of authorization do you need? Kate asked. The ship's commanding officer or chief engineer must provide biometric confirmation, Iris explained. Ethan exchanged glances with Kate. The crew disappeared 100 years ago. There's no way. Incorrect, Iris interrupted. The ship's chief, Engineer Dr. Olivia Grant, remains on board in cryostasis. Her life signs are stable. Stunned silence fell over the boarding party. Take us to her, Ethan finally said. Iris guided them through the ship's corridors to a sealed chamber deep within the vessel's core. Inside, a single cryostasis pod hummed quietly. Through its frosted glass cover, they could make out the figure of a woman. Dr. Grant entered stasis voluntarily when the ship's main weapon system malfunctioned during testing, Iris explained. The temporal field was deployed as a containment measure, which is why the Spectre has remained hidden for a century, while only months have passed aboard. Kate approached the pod. Can she be safely revived? Yes, Iris confirmed. The revival process can begin immediately. As the cryostasis pod began its warming cycle, Ethan's communicator crackled with an urgent message from the Dauntless. Commander! It was Sam's voice, tight with tension. We're detecting multiple ships entering the nebula. Vorchan's signatures. They found us. Ethan looked at the slowly defrosting cryopod, then back at his team. We're out of time. We need to wake her now. The race to revive the only person who understood the Spectre's true capabilities had begun, even as an alien armada closed in around them. The cryostasis pod hissed as its seal broke. Warm air rushed in, melting the last bits of frost from the glass. Inside, Dr. Olivia Grant's eyelids fluttered. After a century of frozen sleep, she was waking up. Vital signs stabilizing, Iris announced. Consciousness returning to normal parameters. Dr. Grant was younger than Ethan had expected, no more than 35. Her short blonde hair framed a face that showed confusion, then alarm as she became aware of strangers surrounding her pod. Who are you? She asked, her voice hoarse from disuse. Where's Captain Miller? I'm Commander Ethan Wright of the Alliance vessel Dauntless, Ethan replied. And the captain, Dr. Grant. You've been in cryostasis for over 100 years. Olivia's eyes widened. 100 years? That's not possible. The temporal field, Kate explained gently. Iris said it was activated as a containment measure. Time passed differently for you than for the rest of the galaxy. Before Olivia could process this information, Alan's voice cut in urgently. Commander, the Dauntless is reporting 5 Vorchan ships entering scanning range. We have maybe 20 minutes before they're on top of us. Ethan turned back to Olivia. Dr. Grant, I know this is a shock, but humanity is facing extinction. An alien force is destroying our colonies. We need the Spectre. We need its weapons. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment. When she reopened them, her confusion had been replaced by determination. Help me up, we need to get to the bridge. As they made their way through the ship's corridors, Olivia explained what had happened a century ago. The Spectre wasn't just a warship. It was designed to be the ultimate defensive weapon. Its main system can absorb energy, any kind of energy, and redirect it. The problem was we couldn't control it once it started the absorption process. What happened during the final test? Kate asked. We were testing the main weapon at minimal power, but something went wrong. It began pulling energy not just from our target, but from nearby stars. The reaction threatened to create a rupture in space-time. Captain Miller ordered everyone to evacuate while he tried to shut it down. I refused to leave. This was my system, my responsibility. I stayed to help, but when we couldn't stop it, I activated the temporal containment field as a last resort. And that's what hid the ship all these years, Kate said, understanding dawning on her face. The temporal field took the Spectre partially out of normal space-time. They reached the bridge, a circular room with control stations arranged around a central command chair. Olivia moved immediately to the main engineering console. Iris, status report, she ordered. All systems in standby mode, the AI replied. Main power at 7% capacity. Weapon systems offline, defensive shields at minimal functionality. Can we get the engines online? Ethan asked. We need to move before those Vorshan ships find us. Olivia's fingers flew over the controls. I can give you maneuvering thrusters, but the main drive needs time to power up after being dormant for so long. Ethan's communicator buzzed. It was Sam from the Dauntless. Commander, we can't wait any longer. The Vorshans have changed course. They're heading straight for us. They must have detected the Spectre. Get back to the Dauntless, Ethan told Alan and the rest of the boarding party. Prepare to detach and run if necessary. What about you? Alan asked. I'm staying here with Dr. Grant and Kate. We need to get this ship operational. After the others had left, Olivia continued working, frantically at her station. I can give you minimal shields and maybe one weapons bank, but the main system is still locked down by safety protocols. How long to bypass them? Ethan asked. Days normally, Olivia replied. But Iris might be able to help. Iris, emergency. Override protocol grant Omega 9. Warning, Iris responded. That protocol will bypass critical safety systems. Probability of catastrophic failure, 63%. We don't have a choice, Olivia said grimly. Execute override. The lights on the bridge dimmed, then brightened as power redirected throughout the ship. Displays that had been dark for a century flashed to life. Basic weapons and defense systems now online, Iris announced. Main energy absorption array remains in safety lockdown. Outside, the Dauntless had detached from the Spectre and taken up a defensive position nearby. 5 Vorshan ships appeared at the edge of sensor range, their insect-like forms moving with predatory grace through the nebula. They're scanning us, Kate reported from the sensor station she had taken over. They seem confused. They should be, Olivia said. The Spectre's hull is made of materials that absorb and deflect scanning beams. Even at minimal power, our stealth systems are better than anything in your current fleet. Can we fight them? Ethan asked. Olivia shook her head. Not all 5 at once, not yet, but we can run. She activated the maneuvering thrusters, and the Spectre began to move deeper into the nebula. The massive ship accelerated with surprising speed and agility for its size. They're following, Kate warned, and they're launching smaller attack craft. The first volley of Vorchan energy weapons streaked past them, illuminating the nebula gases with eerie purple light. Evasive pattern delta, Olivia instructed Iris. The ship responded immediately, weaving between dense clouds of cosmic dust. How? Do you know all these maneuvers? Ethan asked, impressed. I helped design the navigation systems too, Olivia replied without looking up from her console. Hold on! The Spectre suddenly dropped, just as a Vorshan beam passed through the space where they had been. The alien weapon hit a pocket of volatile gas in the nebula, creating a massive explosion that temporarily blinded their pursuers' sensors. That bought us a few minutes, Olivia said. I need to get to the main engineering lab. There's a manual override for the primary weapon system there. As they hurried through the ship's corridors, Kate asked the question that had been bothering her. Dr. Grant, if the Spectre was so dangerous, why was it built in the first place? Olivia's face darkened. Because we knew we weren't alone in the galaxy. The early deep space probes picked up signals, evidence of advanced civilizations. Some of them didn't seem friendly. The Alliance wanted a deterrent, something that would make potential enemies think twice before attacking Earth. We didn't expect the weapon to be so powerful or so difficult to control. They reached the engineering lab, a large chamber dominated by a circular platform surrounded by complex equipment. In the center of the platform was a cylindrical pillar covered in controls and display screens. This is the heart of the Spectre, Olivia explained. The energy absorption array. When fully activated, it can pull in energy from almost any source. Weapons fire, nearby stars, even the kinetic energy of moving objects. And redirect it as a weapon, Ethan said. Olivia nodded. The ultimate defensive weapon. You can't defeat it by attacking it. You only make it stronger. She began working on the control pillar, bypassing security measures and reactivating dormant systems. As she worked, the ship shuddered under the impact of a direct hit. "They found us," Kate said. Ethan's communicator buzzed again. It was Sam. "Commander, the Dauntless is taking heavy fire. We can't hold them off much longer." "Get your crew to the Spectre," Ethan ordered. "We're going to make a stand here." As Olivia continued her work, the ancient ship began to wake up fully for the first time in a century. Lights brightened throughout its vast hull. Weapons systems hummed with growing power, and deep within its core, the energy absorption array began to glow with a soft blue light that grew steadily brighter. The legend was coming back to life, just as humanity needed it most. The Spectre shuddered as another Vorshan energy blast struck its hull. The shields held, but Ethan could feel the massive ship trembling beneath his feet. "Shield strength at 60%, Iris reported calmly. The crew from the Dauntless had made it aboard just in time. Their ship, brave but outmatched, had been destroyed by the Vorshan attackers minutes after the evacuation. Now the Spectre carried humanity's hopes as it faced 5 enemy warships in the swirling gases of the Helios Nebula. "Dr. Grant, we need those weapons now," Ethan said, watching the tactical display on the bridge. The 5 Vorshan ships had formed, a half-circle trying to pin the Spectre against a dense cloud of cosmic dust. "Almost there," Olivia replied, her fingers dancing across the control panels. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the ship's cool temperature. "Iris, redirect power from non-essential systems to the absorption array." "Redirecting power," the AI confirmed. "Warning, energy absorption system at 40% capacity. Full. Activation not recommended." Kate monitored the enemy ships from the sensor station. "They're changing formation. 3 ships breaking off, moving to surround us." Ethan made a quick decision. "Sam, can you handle navigation?" Sam nodded, sliding into the pilot's seat. "Yes, sir." "Then take us straight at the 2 ships directly ahead. Full speed." Sam looked surprised but didn't question the order. The Spectre surged forward, its engines roaring to life with unexpected power. "What are you doing?" Olivia asked, looking up from her work. "Making them shoot at us," Ethan replied. "You said the ship absorbs energy, right? Let's give it some energy to work with." Understanding dawned on Olivia's face. "Yes, Iris. Reconfigure the forward shields to channel incoming weapons fire directly to the absorption array." "Reconfiguring," Iris responded. "Warning, this procedure has not been tested under combat conditions." The Vorshan ships reacted to the Spectre's aggressive move by opening fire with all weapons. The space between the vessels lit up with deadly, purple energy beams. "Brace for impact," Ethan called out. The first volley hit the Spectre's forward shields. Instead of the expected shudder of impact, the ship seemed to drink in the energy. The lights brightened throughout the bridge. "Energy absorption array at 65% capacity and rising," Iris announced. "Shield strength holding steady." Olivia laughed in disbelief. "It's working. The array is taking in their weapons fire." The Vorshan ships increased their attack, apparently confused by the lack of damage they were causing. More energy beams struck the Spectre from multiple angles as the alien vessels tried to surround it. "Absorption array at 80%, Iris reported. "Warning, safety threshold approaching." "Can we redirect some of that energy to weapons?" Ethan asked. Olivia nodded. "Iris, activate secondary weapon banks. Channel 30% of absorbed energy to forward cannons." The Spectre's weapon ports opened along its hull. Unlike the bright energy beams of the Vorshan weapons, the Spectre's cannons fired concentrated pulses of blue-white light. The first pulse struck one of the Vorshan ships. Its shields flared brightly, then collapsed. A second pulse hit the same spot, cutting through the alien vessel's hull like it was made of paper. The ship broke apart in a silent explosion. "Direct hit," Kate called out. "1 enemy ship destroyed." The remaining Vorshan vessels immediately changed tactics. They stopped firing their energy weapons and began launching physical projectiles instead. "They're learning," Olivia said. "They realized their energy weapons were only making us stronger." The physical missiles impacted against the Spectre's shields. While they didn't provide energy for the absorption array, they also caused minimal damage to the advanced shielding system. "We need to take out more of them before they call for reinforcements," Ethan said. Olivia bit her lip, considering their options. There is one more weapon system, the phase cannons. They fire concentrated beams of the energy we've absorbed, but they're more precise than the main array. Can you bring them online? Yes, but it will take a few minutes to calibrate them. Ethan nodded. Do it, Sam. Keep us moving. Don't let them surround us. Sam executed a series of complex maneuvers using the nebula's dense gas clouds for cover. The Spectre moved with surprising grace for such a large vessel, responding to Sam's commands as if it had been designed specifically for him. The ship's neural interface is adapting to his piloting style, Olivia explained, noticing Ethan's surprise. It's learning how he thinks, anticipating his commands. That's incredible, Ethan replied. The Spectre was decades ahead of its time. Olivia said with pride. Even by your standards, it's still advanced technology. A sudden blast rocked the ship as a Vorchan missile found its mark. Damage to decks 7 and 8, Iris reported. Automated repair systems responding. Phase cannons ready, Olivia announced. Targeting systems online. Target the nearest 2 vessels, Ethan ordered. The phase cannons fired, sending brilliant blue beams cutting through the nebula. The first beam struck a Vorchan ship directly in its engine section. The alien vessel's propulsion system exploded, sending it spinning helplessly into a dense gas cloud. The second beam clipped another Vorchan ship, damaging but not destroying it. The injured vessel retreated, moving to a safer distance. 2 down, 1 damaged, 2 still in fighting condition, Kate summarized. Suddenly, her console beeped urgently. Commander, I'm detecting multiple new contacts entering the nebula. Many more ships. They must have called for reinforcements. Ethan's heart sank. They had fought well, but against an entire armada, even the Spectre might not be enough. Olivia looked up from her console, her face pale but determined. There's one more option. The main weapon. The full energy absorption array at maximum power. You said that was what caused problems in the first place, Ethan reminded her. It did. When fully activated, it pulls in energy from everything nearby. Not just weapons fire, but stars, nebulas, even the potential energy in matter itself. It's what created the temporal field that trapped us for a century. Olivia took a deep breath. But now we know what to expect. Iris and I can control it better. What happens if we use it? Best case? We absorb enough energy to destroy the entire Vorchan fleet in one blast. Olivia hesitated. Worst case? We create another temporal disruption and disappear for another 100 years. Or tear a hole in space-time and destroy ourselves along with everything else nearby. Kate looked up from her sensor readings. The reinforcements will be here in 10 minutes, at least 20 ships, maybe more. Ethan looked around the bridge at the crew. His people from the Dauntless and the few survivors from other outposts who had found their way to them. They were all that remained of humanity's outer colonies. If they fell here, Earth would be next. Do it, he told Olivia. Activate the main weapon. Olivia nodded grimly and turned to her console. Iris, initialize, primary absorption array. Full power. Warning, Iris responded. This action may have catastrophic consequences. Recommend evacuation of non-essential personnel to survival pods. No time, Ethan said. We stay together. As Olivia worked, the ship began to change. A low hum built throughout the vessel, vibrating through the deck plates. The lights flickered, then stabilized at a higher intensity. On the external cameras, they could see a soft blue glow beginning to emanate from various points on the Spectre's hull. Energy levels rising, Iris reported. Absorption field extending beyond hull perimeter. The nebula around them seemed to darken as the Spectre began pulling energy from the very gases that surrounded them. The 3 remaining Vorchan ships fired desperately, but their weapon blasts simply disappeared into the growing field around the Spectre. This is it, Olivia whispered. The point of no return. The ship began to vibrate more intensely. The blue glow turned to white, becoming painfully bright on the external cameras. Brace yourselves, Ethan ordered. The legend was about to prove itself, or destroy them all in the attempt. The Spectre pulsed with energy beyond anything Ethan had ever seen. The ship no longer just hummed, it sang with power, a high-pitched whine that made everyone's teeth ache. The bridge displays flickered between normal and strange symbols no one recognized, as if the ship was speaking a language from another time. Energy absorption at 120% of rated capacity, Iris announced, its usually calm voice now carrying a hint of strain. Field extending to 5,000 kilometers. Through the viewports, the nebula gases swirled toward them, pulled by forces that defied normal physics. The remaining Vorchan ships seemed frozen in place, caught in the growing energy field. "What's happening to them?" Kate asked, watching the enemy vessels on her sensor display. "The absorption field affects time as well as energy," Olivia explained, her hands moving frantically over her controls. "From their perspective, time has slowed to a crawl. Just like what happened to you," Ethan realized. Olivia nodded grimly. "Exactly. But I'm trying to control it better this time." The sensor array beeped urgently. The Vorchan reinforcements had arrived. A swarm of 26 ships ranging from small attack craft to massive command vessels. "They're scanning us," Kate reported. "They appear to be confused." "They should be," Olivia said with grim satisfaction. "They've never seen anything like this." The Vorchan fleet hesitated, then began to form a sphere around the Spectre, surrounding it completely. Their caution came too late. The absorption field had already grown large enough to envelop most of Due. "Their ships. They're caught," Sam said. "Now what?" "Now we give it back to them," Olivia replied. She turned to Ethan. "Commander, we need to release the energy in a controlled burst, or the ship will tear itself apart." Ethan nodded. "Do it." Olivia took a deep breath. "Iris, initiate controlled energy release, full dispersion pattern." "Warning," Iris replied. "Energy release at these levels may cause spatial distortion. Recommend minimum safe distance of 10 light minutes." "We don't have that option," Olivia said. "Execute program grant Omega final. Acknowledged. Energy release in 10 seconds." The crew braced themselves. The ship's vibrations reached a fever pitch, then suddenly stopped. For a moment, everything was eerily silent and still. Then it happened. The energy that the Spectre had absorbed erupted outward in a perfect sphere of blinding white light. It expanded faster than seemed possible, engulfing the Vorchan fleet in seconds. Where it touched the alien ships, their hulls simply dissolved, not exploded, not broke apart. They dissolved into their component atoms, their very molecules, pulled apart by forces that rewrote the rules of physics. On the bridge, alerts blared as the ship's systems struggled to handle the aftermath. "Spatial distortion detected," Iris announced. "Temporal field forming, attempting to compensate." The view outside had become impossible to comprehend, a swirling maelstrom of light and energy that hurt the eyes to look at directly. "What's happening?" Ethan shouted over the noise of straining systems. "The release created a tear in space-time," Olivia called back. "Just like before, we're being pulled in." "Can you stop it?" "I'm trying." Olivia's fingers flew over her controls. "Iris, emergency temporal anchor. Lock onto current space-time coordinates." "Unable to comply," Iris responded. "Temporal drift already in progress." The ship lurched sideways as if it had been struck by an enormous invisible hand. Everyone was thrown from their stations. Emergency lights came on as primary systems failed. "We're losing control," Olivia said, pulling herself back to her console. "The ship is being pulled into the rift." Through the clearing energy storm outside, they could see that not a single Vorchan ship remained. The entire enemy fleet had been completely destroyed, but in its place was something perhaps more terrifying, a swirling vortex of blue-white energy, growing larger by the second. "Can we use the engines to break free?" Ethan asked. Sam shook his head. "Engines are offline. We're adrift." Kate looked up from her sensor readings with a strange expression on her face. "Commander, I'm getting some odd readings from the rift. It's not just pulling us in, it's taking us somewhere." "Where?" Ethan asked. "I'm not sure, but..." Kate's eyes widened. I'm detecting Alliance communication signals. Current ones. A burst of static came over the ship's communication system, then resolved into a voice. Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral Patricia Lane of the Alliance Defense Fleet. You have appeared in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately. The crew looked at each other in shock. Ethan reached for the communication controls. This is Commander Ethan Wright aboard the Alliance vessel Spectre. Admiral Lane, what's your location? There was a pause, then. Commander Wright, you're in Earth orbit. And according to our records, you and your crew were declared missing in action 3 weeks ago when Arcadia colony fell. 3 weeks? Ethan repeated in disbelief. He looked at Olivia. The temporal field again? She nodded slowly. It must have displaced us in both space and time. Instead of being thrown 100 years into the future, we were sent back to Earth. But only 3 weeks after we left. Kate was checking sensor readings again. Sir, we're not just in Earth orbit. We're in the middle of the Alliance Defense Fleet. I'm counting over 60 ships. The fleet must have been mobilized after the first colonies fell, Sam said. The Admiral's voice came through again. Commander Wright, we're detecting unusual energy readings from your vessel. Please explain how you acquired this ship and what happened to the Vorshan forces that we're pursuing. You. Ethan exchanged glances with Olivia, then responded. Admiral, it's a long story, but the short version is, we found a legend, and that legend just destroyed an entire Vorshan armada. There was another pause, longer this time. When the Admiral spoke again, her voice was cautious but hopeful. Commander, our intelligence indicates the main Vorshan fleet is less than 2 days from reaching Earth. They've destroyed everything in their path. Can your legend do that again? Ethan looked at Olivia. She checked her systems, then gave him a tired but determined nod. Yes, Admiral, Ethan replied. The Spectre can do it again, and this time we know how to control it. Over the next 48 hours, Olivia worked with Alliance engineers to stabilize the Spectre's systems. The temporal distortion had actually helped repair some of the damage from the battle, as if the ship had partially reset itself. When the Vorshan main fleet arrived, they found not a defenseless planet, but the entire Alliance fleet arranged in a defensive sphere around Earth. And at the center of that sphere waited the Spectre, its hull glowing with building energy. The battle was brief but spectacular. The Vorshan fleet, over 100 ships strong, threw everything they had at the human defenses. The Alliance fleet took heavy losses, but they had only one job: to hold the line long enough for the Spectre to absorb sufficient energy. When Ethan gave the order to release the weapon, the Spectre's energy field expanded in a controlled wave that washed over the Vorshan fleet. Ship after ship simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to pure energy that the Spectre then absorbed and redirected. In less than an hour, the greatest threat humanity had ever faced was gone. The days that followed, the Spectre became more than a legend. It became a symbol that humanity would not be easily conquered, a symbol that even the darkest hour could be followed by dawn. And as for Ethan, Kate, Olivia, and the crew, they were hailed as heroes, of course. But they knew the truth. The real hero was a ship that had waited 100 years to fulfill its purpose. A ship that had once been only a legend,